All right, and we're finally on.
Technology.
For the 0 viewers here right now,
Hi guys.
Wyattxhim, and this is Val, the vocalist of Evangelist, and I'm lucky enough to get a little bit of his time to do a little bit of an interview / Google Hangout with him. So tell us about yourself. Sadly, I made the dumb assumption that you still lived in your hometown of Indiana, and you actually live in Chicago, Illinois, which has the time difference got this all fucked up.
Things are hard.
So, besides Evangelist, what else do you do?
Let's see. I should have a bunch of props around, but we've just put out an album as Volk, which is spelled VLK.
I think I've seen you share that a few times.
Yeah, it's on what's it called? Tour de Garde Records. Kitz's record label. Thank you very much. It's some nature-oriented black metal with little bits of post-punk wandering through all that stuff.
We got the saxophone in that?
There's no saxophone on that. I did play piano. Primarily, I'm the bass player. I've got my fretless over here. My little friend.
All right, 11 viewers. All right, we're getting somewhere. Oh, beautiful.
Volk is two of the people, other than the main singer-songwriter from the Chicago neo-folk band Ed Nihil, which the other person used to be in Luftwaffe for everyone who is obsessed with neo-folk history and knows all the things. But
I pretty much know nothing about neo-folk. I think I know like 2 bands, if that, and it's kind of like the bigger names. So like we're like speaking a whole different language, bringing up neo-folk right now.
One step at a time. Did you know that the Sean from Mitochondrion is in a neo-folk band? My goodness, a small world.
I gotta stop being so close-minded. I think like every metal musician's in a metal band all the time. I need to stop thinking that most of the time.
Everyone does all the things all the time. There are only about 7 musicians in the world. Justin Bieber is also most of the metal bands. There are secretly no other people. There are only 7 people in the whole music scene. I'm Taylor Swift.
I should have figured.
Now you know. Yeah, so there's Volk. We just put out that album. Obviously, Evangelist is always busy.
I
was
with Blue Nord, and I still haven't picked that up, which I apologize for that, but I need that.
All good.
That split to me is like fucking perfect of a combination.
Yeah, you've got to have your hip hop and your black metal, or nothing is right.
Exactly.
We're doing. I was just meeting with Markov from Ariel and Chernobyl about doing some saxophone stuff with him. Talked to Noah from what's this particular project called? He's got so many of them. But from Solenia Records about doing something with him now. I did drums for his project 10,000 Miles of Arteries a couple years ago. At some point, we'll do some more Itineral work, which is a improvised folk music project from Chicago. What else? Troy Schaefer from Kinetfer and Weirding and various other projects. Worm's Blood is his entry into the black metal world, and I are working on another Knocked album. Let's see, what else am I supposed to be working on? Oh, of course, the thing that I've been working on continuously is too obvious for me to remember. Playing bass with the tech death band Shavasana.
Oh yeah, it's your other stuff,
Which
right?
it's the live guitarist from Evangelist is the main person behind Shavasana.
I just actually looked into that before doing this. That way, I had a little bit more knowledge. Just
a little background.
Yeah.
We have unfortunately pushed the new material a little bit too far into the red zone, and we are hating ourselves as we try to actually play our own material successfully. But we'll get it done sooner or later.
Oh, yeah, because I know it's been like, what, 4 years since, like, the first EP, I think?
They did some live work, they were expanding material, and then there were lineup problems. You've never heard that one before, especially not with Tech Death Band.
Oh, wow. No.
But bands where very few people can actually play the material at all never have lineup problems, not even once. The old drummer is off on a profitable career doing session and live work for singer-songwriters rather than worrying about his tech death drops.
So, and also, you don't even... There is a saxophone in that, right? But you're not even the saxophonist in that.
I am not the saxophonist. We have someone who actually went to school for saxophone instead of I, who went to school and also took saxophone while I was there.
Oh, wow.
It's Keenan Foley is currently playing saxophone and bass clarinet for the new material. Danny Andrada was the original saxophone player who played tenor. Keenan now plays alto. I've been working on some jazz stuff with Keenan too, but we'll see how long it takes to have that come out too.
I was actually going to ask you that because I figured since I really discovered you guys, really got more into with the Hell's Head Bash, the moment you took out a saxophone, what went through my head was there's definitely something that this guy is doing with jazz that no one knows about. Like that's immediately what came to my head too when I saw you take up the saxophone at the bash.
Yeah, that's been a heavy influence on Boston, obviously, which is why we have a saxophone player. I haven't done much with other people jazz-wise, though I am currently doing my best to represent the Chicago free jazz scene with my Frank Rosalie t-shirt that looks like a black metal t-shirt.
I know, that's a jazz t-shirt.
It's actually a jazz t-shirt in disguise. Yeah, I've been playing drums while Keenan was playing saxophone. I started working on some more of my solo saxophone work, which is also working the voice aspects and breathing and being a human being. It's basically primal elements of what I do with Evangelist, but without metal.
Oh, yeah. It's
without any of the context.
Like that nightmarish, dark atmosphere. It's going to be more livened up and more jazz, obviously.
Yeah. It'll be humanity without the elements of band functioning and metal and death metal and all these tropes that we work with. And even as much as that's a thing with Evangelists.
Yeah, exactly. So I gotta ask like all the basic questions too. Like, what really got you into metal? I know it's a really basic question that you already knew this was coming, but I definitely want to ask that from you because it seems like you like a lot of obscure stuff. I'm kind of wondering what like started this whole thing.
I was raised on classical music too.
Yeah, sure.
And I was always into the 19th century stuff with the bombast and the dark sounds, and encountered any analogs with that until a friend of mine showed me that Black Sabbath band that you might have heard of. I heard Iron Man. Sorry, continuously.
Right, Iron
Man. He showed my Iron Man and stuff. I'm like, okay, this is rock and roll. But then he showed me the song Black Sabbath, where they're actually breaking out the dark sound and the huge triumph. And I said, okay, this is something I'm going to get into. I'd actually never heard guitars make that distorted sound before, which is kind of ridiculous thing for someone to say in this day and age, but I didn't know guitars did that. I thought they were for strumming.
For 1970, that was extreme, pretty much.
Yeah. In my little world, apparently I was stuck in the 60s. It happens.
And then I also got to ask, like, what made you, like, think, let's put a fucking saxophone in, like, a death metal band? That's one thing I've always wondered about your project.
Not the first. Not the first. There are some reference points. My instigation in blending the two was the obvious one for people who are into saxophone and metal, Naked City, John Zorn's project, which was an attempt to maximize polystylism with a more or less rock band instrumentation, but drawing heavily on hardcore and grindcore elements with his saxophone playing. If you go listen to Naked City, you'll discover that parts of it sound like Napalm as played by people in their 60s.
Huh.
With a Slayer guitar solo as played on an alto saxophone. John Zorn did actually do a guest on Napalm Death's Utilitarian record, which came out a couple years ago. I'm losing track of time again.
I think 2012 or so.
I actually had no idea that he'd done it, and I was sitting at Eric Nijikata or EE Records guy. I was sitting at where he was living when he still lived in Illinois, and he put that on, and I said, "What? What is this? It's everything I've always wanted. This is the new Napalm Death album. There's a saxophone. It's John Zorn. Oh, of course it's John Zorn, because why wouldn't it be John Zorn? It's, of course, our parents' age, destroying the boundaries with hardcore and grindcore and saxophones. Of course, I was exposed to Ulver through the Lords of Chaos book, because I'm a little black metal kid too. And the first Ulver album I checked out was Perdition City, which heavily features, at least a little bit, I could always ask for some more, the saxophone work of Rolf Erik Nystrom, who is a primarily classical saxophone player from Norway who has immense skill, purely as a technical saxophone player, aside from his creativity and working with his electronic stuff. Totally worth listening to. But I always wanted to do saxophone and metal, so I've always had people show me every little thing they found. So there's the Lugubrum, the brown metal band with the saxophone player. There's Antimonium, which was what's his name's old Swedish death metal project, early '90s. Heavily featuring saxophone, not only leads, but also in with the riffs. There's saxophone playing death metal riffs, and it's beautiful. Fortunately, stopped that far too long. What is his name? Let me ask the internet real quick. Dan Swantno. Yeah. You know that guy.
Dan Swantno?
Oh, yeah. He's done a bunch of famous. Where's Stand By? He's produced a lot of bands. Let's see. The Diabolical Masquerade, Edge of Sanity.
Yeah, of course. What the fuck?
Pandemonium. He did the Steel, the Joke heavy metal band with Michael Ockerfeldt and so forth. He's Swedish metal overlord in some strange ways. I can pull up what he's produced, because he's worked a lot as a producer as well as a musician himself.
So,
yeah. And of course, here in Chicago, there's Yakuza, which is a bit more like a sludge metal band with heavy use of saxophone. So it's been around. It's been around. Yeah. I'm just trying to add to it, cause problems.
I guess I never stumbled upon that many bands that put saxophone into their sound, besides you guys and AMSG are like the only two that really like come to mind. Pretty much some obscure avant-garde shit that I just come across every now and then.
Yeah. Somebody just did a new sax thing recently. I gotta look back on my list of albums that were awesome this year. I've completely lost track. Yeah, Dance One has done guest stuff for everyone. I clicked like 3 times on the scroll bar before I even got out of the A's of the stuff that he's done production for. Bloodbath, Avant Fairy, Dark Funeral, all this stuff. Section.
Oh wow.
It keeps going and going. Around the periphery, but he's one of the innovators of death metal with saxophone. Actually, the Naked City album with John Zorn came out, what, 1991 or something like that. So people have been doing it for a while. It's just not enough of them. Not enough.
Exactly. So, I guess my next question is, what's your favorite album of the year so far? Like, not just metal. I mean, like, just in general, really. I know for me, personally, so that, hopefully I'm even saying it right, because I know you're friends with the guy behind it, El Reyra, the latest album.
What is it?
El Reyra? Is that the?
Oh yeah, El Reyra. I don't know how to say it either word. It's from a book.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't include pronunciation notes. I always said El Reyra, but yeah, that stuff's great. There's been a lot of crazy, weird stuff. I just ordered Battle Trance, it's a saxophone quartet group doing stuff where they're playing on how breath works with the saxophone. I haven't listened to a whole lot of it yet. It's still in pre-order mode, but Travis LaPlante is the composer for it, and he's big into use of circular breathing, so he can just continuously produce tone without breathing. But then he's also making use of breathing as a sound in addition to the saxophone. He did. I assume they're still working. There's a group in New York City called Little Women, which is Travis LaPlante and some other people. 2 saxophones, guitar, drums, doing something that's very comfortable for metal listeners, but still very avant-garde jazz. It's heavy and pulsing and ugly. They make a lot of use of layered multiphonic, so that you're playing 4+ notes between 2 saxophone players, and it's ugly and disgusting and wonderful.
Yeah, check that out then. I mean, fuck. This is kind of dumb, but like somewhere in my collection, like my record store, there was this. They have like this avant-garde section. I feel like you would at least know it. I don't know if you would like it, but this dude has like this clarinet, like really lo-fi clarinet, and just a drum, and it just sounds. It starts with an E. Like, fuck, I'm gonna have to go look for it. The artwork looks like a death metal artwork, but it's just this lo-fi clarinet playing shit that just makes my skin go goosebumps every time I listen to it.
Yeah, I will have to siphon off of your exploration there.
It's bothering me now. Shit.
It's okay. We can still see Wyatt's shadow. He's not dead.
Alive.
Good.
Wow. I'm feeling very professional, guys. Very professional.
This is what happens when you suddenly think of things.
Fucking bitch, where did I put it?
I just discovered that I have the Spectral Voice demo a few minutes ago, so
Found it. Sorry, sir.
the rate that you collect things, if you can find anything at all, I'm impressed.
This right here.
That is definitely. That logo looks familiar. Can you read what it's called?
It's fuck. Oh, there it is. The Dogmatics. The Dogmatics.
Dogmatics.
Yeah, the sacrifice for the music became our lifestyle. Oh, it's just a dude with a clarinet and a piano.
Awesome.
Yeah, I figured you would enjoy this. I never brought it up to you because I was like, oh, this, Val obviously must know this.
Too good for words. Kai Fagashinsky. That actually wasn't so hard. It just looked scary. All right. I've got it open in a tab, so I'll listen to that when I get a chance.
Yeah, it's
genre, jazz, style, free improvisation.
And the only problem is, actually, I think the real reason why I never showed you it is because I couldn't find a link for it either. So it's like you pretty much the only way to listen to it is if you buy it, just like that fucking Wold album EP you got.
Yeah, there's like a 1-minute teaser on YouTube, and that's it. It was on Vimeo too, but it's the same thing as far as I can tell from the previews. Yeah, let's see what else. Inara's new album, Duve, which I was waiting for with great anticipation, which nicely bridges the gap between this heavy, crushing, progressive death, doom, something thing, and like the avant-garde. Well, we won't use avant-garde. We'll say serialist, atonal art songs and so forth. Which there's actually serial work. I talked to Ryan from Inara about it. It is all composed piano. It's glorious. Maybe I'll do something with Ryan at some point.
Like that.
Be afraid. Always afraid.
Another one I really personally enjoyed, and I got the box set for it, is that latest Terra Tenebrosa album, The Reverses. It's like going through a fucking portal of just insanity.
I have started listening to that, having been reminded that we are on the same label. Oops. And yeah, that's like the just punishing.
Exactly. I know their first album, it was just like this gloomy, terrifying sound. Like it just felt like you were just traveling through a dark cave that wouldn't end. Now it's like this. Now with this album, it feels like the cave is like collapsing on you, like for like 50 minutes plus.
Pretty much. Ruben or Thorn from Evangelist, the other guy, is really into Terra Tenebrosa. Has made a point of making sure I listen to it when he's been here, when we've done live work. Of course, I've been a bit distracted with trying to get the live work to work out, but yeah, it's really impressive material. It's got some sort of stuff we like from Blue Dot Nord, but instead of putting you into the sort of mindset that you get from Blue Dot Nord, it just slams down on you instead of letting you float away. It's nice. It's good stuff.
I always get those types of emotions when like noise is incorporated into a band's sound. That's why I like more now more than ever.
There's the basic metal approach of, okay, my guitar is distorted. That adds to the feeling, right? And then there's people who actually try to go beyond just distorting the guitar, add noise, add synthesizers, creative layering of their instruments to actually create a textural element that's significant in the music.
Like that's like
big difference.
5 projects by Maurice right there, pretty much.
Yeah, he's a beautiful, beautiful man. Speaking of excellent releases this year, I've only heard the first track that he put out for it. Next Gnaw Their Tongues work.
Yes,
it's so good.
Damn! I'm waiting for a physical release. Like that's
Yeah.
the kind of person I am. It's just like when people say you can stream it now, I'm just like, oh, I gotta pre-order it then. Like I'm just not that type of person who streams it.
Yeah. Of course, I've got the. Usually, when I'm using the internet, I'm plugged into the nicest stereo in the house, so it's like, this is gonna be awesome. And of course, Abyss of Longing Throats came out this year, didn't it? No, that was last year. Okay. I'm losing my. That album was glorious too. Okay, it was August.
That was his last.
Late last year?
Yeah.
What else has he done in the last couple of months?
That's something for that project, Adderlating. Oh my god, please tell me.
Yeah.
I really enjoy.
That's how I say it.
What? That's how you say it?
That's how I say it.
Oh.
I don't know if it's how Maury says it.
He also did a split with Necrosov with that project too. That
did he?
Yeah, I got it on vinyl. The split of it. I was kind of surprised. At the Maryland Festival, so I just splurged all my savings on that fucking festival again.
The last Necrosov thing I got was still. If I can look it up.
He's also got an EP.
It would help if I could spell.
Like a week or two ago.
Which one?
Necrosov.
Yeah. Oh, you put out another thing.
Yeah, another EP. It's like a 20-minute long single track EP. That
As You Trace It All the Way Back.
Sorry?
It's called As You Trace It All the Way Back.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute EP that's just one track of just noise and darkness and discomfort. It's great.
Okay, I found the Necrosov album I have, which I did with the internet instead of looking for it in the building because I have no idea where it is. Into No Man's Sphere of Ancient Days, which apparently is the first Necrosov album.
Yeah, I got that for $3.86.
Nice.
I couldn't believe it. Some dude in Canada must have just not wanted it or something, because $3.86. Fuck yeah.
Hey, if you're desperate for some cash and got a lot of records, it's a bummer. But I got it from Ars Magna Records, represent Ohio, yay Midwest. Back in, when did I get it? Either early on. Oh, that would have been when I first met Ruben, actually. Within the first week of me knowing Ruben from Evangelist, when we did the Beauty, Darkness, Chaos tour, which featured Benedin Sodom and Chaos Moon and Frost Moon Eclipse, whose drummer is, of course, now the drummer from Blue Dust Nord, yay for A Small World. And, of course, Alex from Chaos Moon is now the guitarist of Creed, and Scafe or Scathe, or however you say it, with mistherming people. And what's the new project that he's doing?
From the dude
with a bunch of Icelandic people and rest.
I think that's what it is.
Oh, Martrolv, or however you say that. I can't pronounce Icelandic letters. I'm sorry. Other than the, but yeah, there's the new Martrolv project, which features Alex, who is in Chaos Moon on that tour, and Rest from Leviathan, and a bunch of the Icelandic people, including Hofstein from Wormlust.
Oh wow!
I don't know how they're managing to condense all of those people into one band without it exploding into 20 albums. But good for them.
Yeah.
That's on Fallen Empire Records, I think. Speaking of.
Trying to think.
Yeah.
A lot of people right now are like telling me I need headphones. I know I have a pair, but I have no clue where they are. And
I've got an extra pair around here somewhere. I can just hand them to you, right?
Threw that in with the patch you gave me.
If only I'd known.
This is very unprofessional, but I never take myself. Oh wow! Look at that! Such luck! I found some.
Good work.
But guys, I got a fucking degree. Alright, now, where do I plug this in? Alright, are in, I think.
Might die, guys.
I love this about headphones. When they get tangled up, even though you don't even touch them, leave them completely alone.
I fix that every day of the week.
The tangle monster comes in.
It's actually a squadron of cable gremlins, as I understand it. They
I heard
when you're not looking and tie them up. Yep. I'm
see in the East Coast. So I know you're at central. You're like in the central part. In the East Coast, it's trolls and whatnot.
Oh, they've got cable trolls out there. Damn.
I don't know about the West Coast. I heard the West Coast. It's like fucking wolves apparently. Not really sure about that.
There is in each ecological niche there is some creature that screws up cables. I've been trying very hard to keep the cable gremlins out of this room. There are so many cables here, but as you can see, they are coiled, to which cable gremlins are allergic. It doesn't always work. Just
Finally, I can finally hear you now through the headphones.
Coiled and in a bag. Gotta keep the cable gremlins away.
I know. So I'm trying to. Oh, look at that! Now all the viewers are coming back now because their ears aren't bleeding anymore. A few more now.
Who would want that?
No, right? I listen to harsh noise.
It's what ears are for. They're for suffering. If you're not getting enough suffering in your daily life, there's only one way to fix it.
Harsh noise. And many other things.
Straight in through the ears.
So I gotta ask now, like, what have you been like listening to like actively? I know I'm like really unoriginal with these questions, but like I just do simple questions right now.
I've been actively listening to an audiobook of The Prague Cemetery by Umberto Eco, which is amazing. It's just a series of racist rants.
Then you should definitely check out xenophobic ejaculation, and while you're at it, that's literally
xenophobic ejaculation.
Yeah, you should check him out.
It seems to be focused on mental illness, and it's wonderful and keeping me alive. Oh yeah, I see some swastikas right now. Thanks, Google. No, I actually just started listening to properly on my own Aransi Pazuzu since I recently found.
Oh my god, their latest album is so awesome. And you know what's funny too? I accidentally bought the rarest pressing of it. Like, I'm expecting the black one, and all of a sudden I get this crazy looking one. It's like worth $70 now in Discogs. I'm like, whoa, that's the best mistake ever.
Yeah, I think one of my housemates has done that a couple times. It's just like, wait, the internet likes this release more than I do. Maybe I should give it back to them. Why did I buy this? I guess he's the central songwriter, the vocalist and guitarist from Aransi Pazuzu. I'm not sure how recent it was, but I recently found it. He mentioned in response to, what are your influences working on the new record? Well, he said on the heavy side, something, Evangelist. And I said, oh.
Yeah. I thought that was...
You know, I like that band. I should actually get around to listening to them. I've been busting out some of the old neo-folk stuff that I used to listen to back in the day again. Ordo Rosarius Equilibrio, which I had somewhat let fall out of my brain. It's good stuff.
I don't even know if I could put that name in my brain. Like, what the fuck did you just say?
Something about equilibrium and roses and order. Yep. Thanks, Latin. It's a neofolk that is lyrically themed around Satan and BDSM.
What?
And it's really good. It's really good. It's so good. Hey,
So your name's pretty much about equilibrium and flowers, but your lyrical themes are about Satanism and BDSM.
yes. Well,
Wow, what a combo!
as any sufficiently experienced neofolk fan knows, all neofolk must mention roses at some point, at least once, preferably over and over and over again. Device of Rose is a great neofolk band. Oh, they're a little on the edge. I've got my Device of Rose shirt in there. They were just touring with Of the Wand and the Moon. I'm sure there are some Of the Wand and the Moon songs with roses in them.
So what you're saying, it's like there's like instead of like the metal archives, we got the neofolk archives, and for every lyrical themes, every single one's gonna have roses.
Roses.
Yeah, every single one.
Right there.
All right.
It's just the best flower word apparently. So Oranzi Pazuzu, Ordo Rosarius Equilibrio. Of course, I've been trying really hard to listen to the stuff that comes out now. Inares Duve and so on. The new Nother Tongue. Of course, I have the advantage that I get him to just show me what it is when it comes out. I don't have to actually pay attention. Maurice just says something, and there it is.
Yeah, exactly.
He's... Oh my goodness. Let's see. What else have I been listening to? I've been listening to a lot of Paramore.
Nice. The old stuff
Yep.
or the new stuff?
First and second album. I mostly haven't gotten around to listening to the newer stuff. I don't really need more than 2 albums of Paramore.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of my listening has been built around getting me through the workday.
Yeah, exactly.
Without falling asleep. And as much as I love to sit and listen to Morton Feldman, if I try to do that at work, I'll just sit down and stop moving. Speaking of people we're name dropping, Morton Feldman is dead. He has been dead for some time, but he was a composer who hung out with John Cage a lot, even though he was way better than John Cage at everything. I mean, what? And his focus was primarily on writing pieces of music that lasted at least 40 minutes, if not hour and a half each. If minimalism were good, and yes, there's some good minimalist stuff out there, but he'll take a lot of very simple, like atonal, strange conjunctions of pitch collections and this and that. Just like a little chord, maybe a couple notes. The absolute strip down and put them next to each other in all the possible variations, put you into this sort of trance of something that's not exactly repeating, but is a deep exploration of simple elements in all their possible forms. Yeah, it's good stuff, but not any good for working, unless your working happens to involve sitting down.
Exactly. With delivering mail, it's like I need something like upbeat, 3 minutes tops, just to just get the the gears moving. Because if I listen to anything atmospheric or anything that's really lengthy, I'm just gonna be like, you can get your package tomorrow, I guess.
And
here's your bills.
While I am working for your co-opetition, as we are technically termed over at UPS, I'm moving all of the packages, and I need to keep the blood pumping, or I will not keep up with my work. Besides which, the building itself is basically like being at a power electronics show. For why it's less noise-oriented followers, basically noise plus someone screaming angrily. That is what the building sounds like. At any point,
your UPS office, really?
Well, because it's the warehouse itself where we transfer all this stuff around.
Oh, shit.
So at any point, there are several different sources of sort of pulsating industrial noise and at least one person screaming angrily in the distance. So I also have to be able to hear the music over all of that. Sometimes I just listen to noise, but then I feel like, why don't I just take the headphones off?
That's hard to believe, because every office I've worked at so far, even though I've only been at it for like 5 months, I've been to a few different offices. Like, we're talking like this, like the office is literally the size of my room I'm in right now. It's like really low key, down to earth people, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, I'm expecting so much chaos, and yet I'm getting a relaxing day delivering mail to like a couple hundred people a day.
That sounds so beautiful. So beautiful. With our behind the scenes work, we're actually, of the normal processing hubs, there are a couple big ones that handle stuff nationally. We have, I think, the largest normal processing hub. I know our shift has the largest number of people on it for the equivalent shifts in the ungodly hours of the morning. So I'd say, okay, the building has little buildings inside it where the offices are.
Yeah.
And those buildings are 2 stories tall, and there's at least another story worth of space above them. So the building's probably 3.5, maybe 4 stories tall inside to accommodate the network of conveyor belts that gets stuff all over the building.
Conveyor belts?
Yes, all of which are making loud noises, especially occasionally one of them will have a mechanical issue. It hasn't happened in months, fortunately, and it sounds like high volume feedback.
See, again, it's hard for me to believe, because all that happens is one truck at 6:30 in the morning and a second truck at 8:30 in the morning comes to my office, dumps like 3 dozen packages for the 3 rooms, and then that's it. I know, it's like right now I'm describing heaven to you right now. It sounds like we're talking about fucking work.
I'm not sure how many bays we have. We have a couple dozen bays that each do 3 or 4 semi-trailers worth of incoming packages a day.
Oh my god.
And roughly 300 and some of the normal UPS trucks, or package cars as we call them, that go out to various places.
So now I gotta ask, because you deliver them, right? Like,
I do not deliver them. I process the packages in the stage before the delivery, between roughly 3:30 and 9 a.m.
3:30 and 9. So you're, wow, you have like the
so I don't go to shows.
3:30 and 9. Wow, you probably sleep all day then. You have like, that's like an awkward shift.
It's very awkward.
You start at 3:30 in the morning,
give or take. During peak season, from Thanksgiving to Christmas, we start at like 1.
Oh god, dude, I'm terrified to work in Christmas time. Like, I'm just hearing so many people be like, "Oh yeah, it's a fucking massacre of packages." I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so scared."
They're not wrong, at least if you're anything like us, which apparently you're not. But nonetheless, relatively speaking, it's quite an experience.
Oh boy, I'm scared.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. If you've made it this far, you'll be fine. That's what I tell everyone. I might be lying, but that's what I tell everyone. I think, was it not this past one, but the one before, after I was done with 8 or so hours doing the processing in the morning, I would go help one of the drivers in our area deliver.
Yep.
So I was working at least 12 hours a day doing physical stuff in the cold and running around. So my time at home was spent between shifts. I would sleep for about an hour on the couch with a heating pad on my legs because they hurt all the time, despite continuous stretching, hydration, whatever, all the stuff you can do. And I would go help the driver, and I would come back home, and I would go to bed. and I would get up and I would go back to work. Now, everyone says they go to work and they come home and they go to bed. I drove through fast food on the way home, ate it, and was asleep within 15 minutes of getting home.
That is the worst combination. I always, like, even though it's like I've learned from it, like every now and then I'll be like, oh man, I can get that McDonald's in, and that's going to give me some energy. And all it does is just put a nuclear bomb in me, and I'm like, oh, fuck, why did I do that? Just fall right asleep.
Fortunately, with this sort of work, I have discovered that I can, as long as I don't do it all the time, I can deal with large piles of McDonald's without being able to tell that I did anything bad. Because I needed the calories that bad.
Oh, fuck.
It's nice, at least, I guess, that I'm not constantly worrying about trying to eat like a bird. Because I'm old and my metabolism is broken. But the other year during the peak season, Arby from Volk also worked with us, and he now works at a bookstore in the area, which is much better. And just whenever something goes wrong there, he can't bring up the energy to be upset, because it's better than the worst day at the bookstore is better than the best day during peak at UPS.
I bet.
And it's just like, this is fine. We'll be fine.
As you must guess, our viewers must love this. I'm talking to a musician about work.
Hi guys, we get your mail to you. We get your records there.
Exactly.
And don't get broken, we promise. Actually, once I was loading a box of cymbals, and I recognized the name on the package. It was the Born of Osiris guy, whose name I can't remember if I don't see it, but I know I'd seen it before.
Oh, wow.
So I messaged him on Facebook and I said, okay, your cymbals are getting here today, we promise. He's like, oh, thank God. I've been worried. Because apparently they didn't even get sent out, and he was like, I need those now. Weird moments.
So getting back into a musical question
yes.
now, after like 20 minutes of talking about the exciting postal office and everything, without like really spoiling much, which I know this is kind of like a question that would spoil a lot of things. Can we expect anything different with the next Evangelist releases? I know you're an avant-garde act, and that's pretty much saying you're gonna be different all the time. But are we still gonna get like that nightmarish, mentally scarring sound, or are we gonna take a different path? I guess
there is something I can easily and clearly elucidate that will be different with the next Evangelist album. The drums are all real.
Oh, they've always been programmed.
They've always been programmed.
Fuck, I can't believe I never...
I mean, they've been worked out from Ruben playing drum parts, but he hasn't had access to the kind of equipment to record stuff well. And this time he has. I've got about half of the albums in semi-mix... in instrumental, that's the word, format. And it's great. Y'all have heard like the Dream and Evil Dream stuff.
Yep.
I'm turning around. Ta-da!
Wow, you own it?
I have all of our merch right here.
Wow.
Oh, and there's the cassette version as well. And the drums on that are real, and the format on that is very different. If you listen to it, you hear it as an expanded... It's not improvised, but it's got that sort of improvised feeling to it, where it's a natural flow rather than songwriting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a 30-minute long track.
Yeah. It's not but so much that's going to happen with a 30-minute track other than just this extended flow. But
yeah, I would expect that. I mean, if it's all blast beats, that's gonna be boring as fuck.
right. But with the new album, he's doing real drums in our more normal, more song-oriented. I've lost the ability to speak English. Paradigm. We'll go with Paradigm. So it's actually been really nice for me to hear that while he works it out normally. I'm not there because we're halfway across the country from each other.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, where's he from? I know, like I remember seeing that when I first discovered you guys.
When we started, I was here in Chicago-ish, and he was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So we were actually a Florida death metal band. Yay, Florida! But actually, this is an obscure note that I don't even think most of our friends realized. We had actually stopped doing Evangelist. Evangelist was going to be over, and then Ruben got himself and his belongings on a bus and traveled from the southeast corner to the northwest corner of the country, and now lives somewhere outside Portland, Oregon. And his life stopped being, well, this might be an exaggeration, but it stopped being quite so much of a piece of shit as it was in Fort Lauderdale, which is, from what I understand, an awful place that no one should ever go to.
I hear Florida in general is like the worst place to go to, so I can believe that.
There's, not to mention any names, but there is a depressive black metal, more or less, album out there called Fort Lauderdale. Search your metal archives, kids.
So now I gotta ask, how do you guys even get acquainted then? If you're like from Chicago and he's from Florida.
I used to be in a band called Velnius, which some of you know probably, though maybe different sort of orientation. It's the more nature-oriented work back in the day. And Ruben's old project, well, it's not his old project, he's still doing it, but his more long-term project, Benighted in Sodom, was touring with Chaos Moon and Frost Moon Eclipse, who, Chaos Moon, the main guy, is in Martroth, or however you say it, with Rest and all the Icelandic people, and Skafe with the Mistherming vocalist and stuff. And the drummer from Frost Moon Eclipse is now the drummer of Blue Dust Nord. So we've all been following each other around, it seems like. Even though all the things we're doing now are completely different from what we were doing then. Velnius hopped on part of that tour in the Midwestern dates, and we got to know those guys. And I really liked what Ruben was doing with Benighted in Sodom. So I ended up being the live bassist on a later Benighted in Sodom tour in 2010. While we were doing that, my personal allergy to excessive black metal. Sorry, guys, I actually do not like Dark Throne. I'm sorry. Actually, that's a complicated answer, but I have issues with black metal. If you're not expanding something, you should stop doing it.
I kind of agree on that.
I'm an
asshole. No. I do like raw black metal. I like, just really primitive black metal, but like, just do this, like, the same type of sound over and over again. That's not really, like, my thing. Like, yeah, sure, I'll buy a few of your albums, but, like, I'm not going to be like, hey, I own literally everything by this band that's been kind of doing the same thing again and again. Like,
You better be doing a genius job of it if you're going to do something that's been done.
Again.
And most of the black metal scene does not.
Like,
it's been getting better. It's been getting better, to be honest.
No, to be honest, like, I'm seeing more experimentation going on, and I love that shit. Like, thanks to you, you're going to destroy my bank account because of a Kitsa. I mean, fuck, that is, like, literally everything I look for in black metal, all in one.
It's good stuff.
Yes.
But as much as I'm not a big fan of the, like, post-black metal thing in general.
No, you don't like Lancelos, man.
I don't shit, but starting with the explosion of that, it seems like a lot of the let's do the same thing
Yeah,
has died out of the black metal scene.
let's be really melodramatic and show feelings. I guess is the right
Well,
way to
yeah,
say it.
let's be melodramatic. Let's be experimental. Let's do something different. Has become a thing in black metal, which has been great.
Yeah, exactly.
It's expanding. But of course, my hatred was rooted in being around for before that, when everyone was insisting on doing the same thing. But anyway, so during the Midnight in Sodom tour, the guitarist John from Nekrite, depending on the day, that old dissonant black metal band from Oakland or thereabouts. I think they're defunct, sadly, but and I were bonding just listening to death metal on tour and talking about death metal, listening to Suffocation and Incantation and stuff like that. And Ruben just talked to me after the tour was over and said, "Do you want to start doing something more in that vein?" I'm like, yes, I do. Actually, famously among our friends, it was, "Do you want to start a death and roll project?"
Oh.
Obviously, that's not what happened. We, instead of doing something moderately absurd, we ended up doing something that was a real expression of humanity and an actual artistic effort, which I will not complain about in the slightest. But yeah, being a live musician for other people puts you in new and different places.
Also, I wanted to ask. I think I may have asked you this before, but like I remember you guys had like a tour with not a tour, but like a show in Iceland, like a festival, Wormlust, and I always forget how to say the band's name. Survived Doubt.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck it is.
The previous Oration Fest, we did not end up playing that because going to Iceland is very hard.
Hopefully, I'll be able to make it next year. Hopefully, I don't get visa issues like every other fucking Iceland band.
We had some issues with. Honestly, we could have fixed the issues with the passports, but Ruben ended up having to have some surgery at just the wrong time, and it was just not going to work out. So maybe another time. We are definitely still hoping that we can get an Oration appearance in at some point, but we'll see how long that takes and what it takes for that to happen. Those fests are looking really great, at least at a distance.
Oh yeah, I mean, fucking. Oh my god, I can't miss that. I mean, that's not the main reason why I'm going to Iceland. It's just kind of like the little cherry on top of the cake.
Yeah.
It just fits so perfectly because in Iceland, for all you people who want to travel there, February, that's the month to go because plane tickets drop significantly that month. And I found that out from a guy who sell at a smoke shop when my girlfriend was buying a bong. That guy told me that. I was like, wow, out of all fucking places, I find it out from this dude.
These things happen. Once I was at a Jamba Juice, and I was sitting around. Do those exist anymore? I haven't seen one in a long time.
Non-northeastern part of this
It was
country.
a smoothie place for anyone who didn't get them. I was in a smoothie place, just sitting there drinking my smoothie when that was the super trendy thing to do. And one of the employees looks over me and says, "Do you listen to Bethlehem? You look like someone who would listen to Bethlehem." And I was like, yes. What?
You better know Rainer Lad from him.
Right. In fairness, he apparently worked with Casey Hogan, who y'all probably know. Spectral Voice has recently been doing stuff. Casey was the vocalist from Spectral Voice on the first demo, which I just discovered I have a copy of, which I had apparently forgotten. Yay,
that's what happens when you collect so much. I'm amazed I've yet to buy a double album like please tell me I don't have this because I'm about to buy it right now.
Fingers crossed. When you get duplicate books too, that's embarrassing. It's like I read this and I forgot I had it. I read the whole thing. What you gonna do? Anyway, and he was actually, Casey was on the first Evangelist album doing guest vocals, but he was in, or is still in, the Chicago area band Clad in Darkness, which is actually, it's probably, to be fair, a post-black metal band, but they were doing it before the thing started, so no one was calling them that.
Yeah.
They've got all the clean elements, the build-ups, the big triumph and stuff. But he worked with this guy at the smoothie shop, and I suspect that might be why the guy at the smoothie shop was aware of Bethlehem. It's slightly possible.
Yeah, that's
just maybe. But at the time, it was what? Yeah, small world.
Speaking of it, I mean, fucking one time I'm at my old job where I could look like I was working as a machinist, not a machinist, a machine operator, and literally all you have to do is just keep the machine. Yeah, there is a big difference. A machine operator doesn't know shit. A machinist knows everything. And, like, all I had to do, my job was literally to make sure that machine ran. That's literally, I got away with just so much time. And this, I'm sitting at my break, and this dude who I'm now friends with is starting his own band. He's just never really keeping a name or anything. Just comes up to me. He's like, "You Wyattxhim?" The guy who did the Ghost Bath review. I'm like, what the fuck? You shouldn't know who I am. Come on, I work in a machine operator place. How the fuck do you know who I am? This is weird.
Actually, speaking of people going up to you and recognizing you,
celebrity moment. Here we go.
Not me, but speaking of Jamba Juice as well, I remember when Emperor was doing their reunion tour in the United States. Somebody was posting online, "I found the guys from Emperor at a Jamba Juice. Look at my pictures." Yep, good story. Good story. Then I found $5.
How did you find $5 at a Jamba Juice?
No, that was what I was trying to say when I told a terrible, terrible story.
Oh God!
You got to make it better somehow. My goodness. Here's $5. It's in my pocket. Actually, yes.
I actually do.
It's a good time to have money.
So also speaking of post-black metal, I gotta ask that band Kana, if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Their latest album is incredible.
I think it's Kinda.
Kinda?
I said it for a long time as Kana, and then somebody told me I was saying it wrong.
Kinda?
Yeah, anyway.
Kinda?
However you say it, Andy's new album.
That album, I think, is absolutely incredible. Like, there is not one moment where it's just like, the same. Like, everything changes up. I mean, he even got that dude, the dude who did that has that Harsh Noise project, who also did
Lawrence.
Kid. That Vampria, I think.
I am not sure.
Fuck. Wait, yeah.
Christ, clad in white phosphorus. Oh, the internet doesn't know anything.
Sorry?
Yes.
Yeah,
Vermipire, yeah.
Yeah, Motherfucker. Yeah, like, out of nowhere, this guy's in it too, which was a massive surprise to me. Evan. Something like that. Because isn't it true?
Oh, like, yeah, that's Dwid, right.
Isn't it true this dude, like, from what I read, I might be wrong, like, he incorporates audio from, like, silent movies, apparently, from, like, really obscure 1920s silent movies.
It could well be. Dwid, to me, has always just been a name of someone that people I know are friends with. And I am terrible. I've never even listened to Integrity. Even though people go around with integrity patches on their jacket and say, yeah, they're all friends. And there's, well, the guy who's doing vocals on Kinda Now, who's on Christ Clad in White Phosphorus, Lawrence Taylor, is also
He's a new one, right?
guy. Yeah. What's his? It's one of those things I can never remember the name of it because it's got numbers and things in it. Lawrence, quickly, what's your project called?
Things like what, exclamation marks and question marks and shit.
I think there's a hyphen.
Oh, God.
But yeah, the vocalist from Kinda Now is a Power Electronics guy. And of course, Andy's always incorporated a lot of everything into Kinda. Actually, honestly, for me, though I do like Christ Clad in White Phosphorus, it's the last several albums have been sort of, well, probably not several, a couple albums have been a little bit, because I like it when Andy strums his acoustic guitar and sings to
Yeah,
exactly. And he's kind of stopped doing that. I really liked Litanies of Objection, which is the album before last, which is this whole electronic weird thing. It's pink and has a pregnant lady on it. Yeah, it's a great album, which apparently everyone just didn't notice or something. It seems like that got no press or anything.
It's like the weirder you get, the less people care.
Yeah, but I got into Kinda in 07, 08, something like that, with the Mourner album, which has the most beautiful acoustic-y, strummity songs on it. It's got Wormwood Over Albion, which is one of my favorite acoustic-y, strummity, whatever you want to call it, songs on it, ever on it. What's the other one actually called?
The Head of the
I could sing it to you, but words are hard. But between those two songs, which are just beautiful songwriting, I don't care what you say, Andy, you can diss your own work as much as you want, but those are beautiful songwriting and wonderfully sung. And like the intro, Waves in Gulf Appear, Hideous Gnosis, all of the textural noise work incorporated with beautiful soft sounds actually was huge influence on me. It made me really want to explore that end of things, which I have maybe not been doing the best job of doing, but internet helped me with my own memory about what I've done myself. That's really sad. What was it? In about 2009, I started doing noise in like 06, 07, but by 2009, I had really started incorporating the elements which I was trying to take from Kinda into doing Noise Project. My project Sun Carcass, I did a couple of splits.
Oh, yeah.
They're on my Bandcamp if you go to valdor.bandcamp.com. Yeah. Alemannic and Svalbard by Sun Carcass are both basically centered around piano, small winds, and live electronics, contact mics, noise stuff built into like a melancholic atmospheric thing based entirely, well, not entirely, but heavily influenced by what I really enjoyed aside from metal in those kind of albums, Mourner and Temporary Antennae, so forth. So I'm a huge kind of fan because I need a life.
I guess my next question is, will the Evangelist be doing any tours? Because you're like one of the few bands I like obsess over, and I have never seen you guys announce a tour. It seems like.
We've only done one tour, which was like 2012 or something, which was sort of under the radar, I think, a little bit. We'd like to do it again. We don't have anything set up.
Oh, because I usually see you guys with festivals, Hell's Head Bash, the
Yeah.
California Fest.
With the ever-present need to work normal people jobs all the time so that we don't starve to death.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
It's very hard to get out and do a tour. We've been sort of maneuvering into trying to be more able to do that financially and with time off and so forth. And we've got a pretty solid live lineup now.
Yeah, you guys. I thought you guys killed it at the Hell's Head Bash. And by the way, all the people who laughed at them, fuck you. That's all I gotta say to that. That aggravated me when that happened.
I'd rather not have the unquestioning enjoyment of people who have no taste. I would rather that the people who actually can think about something instead of embracing doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, no, like
no offense, certain other bands.
No, like I'm not trying to be like the fanboy, defending you, but like at the Hell's Head Bash, there were a lot of great acts. I met a lot of great people, and it was cool. But every band had the same like kind of substance of blast beats, war, violence, Satanism.
It's comfortable.
And then out of nowhere, you guys come out, and I felt cold. I felt kind of like mesmerized by your sound. And then, I keep bringing it up, but when you got out the saxophone, I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is the best show here. Fuck this. And yeah, that's why.
That's what happens when you're not trying to go for a comfort zone of emulating and expanding only slightly upon the music that people have been doing for the last 30 years. And I do not think that people should stop doing that. I think that there are people who need that in their lives, and they should do that.
Exactly.
But those people don't have to give a shit or even not hate what I'm doing. And if they do hate what I'm doing, it means I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, which is actually adding something and going outside of comfort zones into creating something that is not a regurgitation of the past. That sounds incredibly pretentious, but
No, I see where you're coming from. So then I gotta ask, like, what do you think out of the Evangelist discography is like your crowning album, like the album that everyone should like start off with? Because I've always thought, and here I am forgetting names, but your sophomore album to me is like the one to start off with, just because to me it just seems so death metal fueled that it's like the easiest one to attach to at the moment. But I feel like your best in general is your latest one, Thrall to the Void of Bliss, because that really went into the next dimension for me personally, listening to it.
Yep, I agree.
Oh wow! Here I am thinking you disagree with me there.
I think actually, when you first saw us at Hell's Head Bash, our answer, Alyssa, who does our business stuff, who is wonderful, thank you, was unfortunately stuck at manning the merch table most of the time, and she was like, okay, I need to know how to market things. What's the album for people to start with? And we said, yeah, Omen X Simulacra, the second album. And now that the fourth album, Enthrall to the Void of Bliss, has come out, that is definitely my favorite album. I think the production on it is hands down the best. The zither, the harp that's all over it, that Oh my god. I
Yeah,
saw so many negative comments on the internet, even from people who otherwise liked everything. That's almost my favorite part of the album. Um, the way it just, to quote Death in June, rattles around your head. Ooh, I'm on the neofolk again. Sorry, guys. Really helps create the right sort of mental space. And the songs are, not to pump up Ruben's ego or anything, are really wonderful. Some of the best stuff out there as far as Evangelist has gone. I really like Rise in the Mark, but it's easier for me to forget about that between Enthrall, which I think has completely nailed what we're doing so far, and who knows what will happen in the future. Hindsight is what we'll need for that one. But and between that and Omen X, which was really expanding on really doing solid songwriting in this context, which I think is really necessary, especially for a first-time experience of something, is to have that songwriting to root yourself within and be able to feel the changes in the density and the dynamic and blah blah between sections, progression, all this stuff that makes songs actually work, that makes you actually feel what's going on instead of just being embraced. And there are people who really like the first album because it is so thoroughly overwhelming.
Yeah,
and it's so hard to handle in some levels,
and even harder to pronounce.
Yes, I'm not even going to go there. I can show you a picture of it. I'm not going to say it.
Oh, you can't even say it either?
I'm never quite sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Look, everybody. It's on the edge. De masticatione mortuorum in tumulis. And well, part of the problem is there are multiple different schools of pronouncing Latin because it's a dead goddamn language.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's right. And what does right even mean in the context? It's a reference to an old book, but not from when Latin was a language that human beings actually used, but from when it was the academic language. So, how old is that book?
Actually, the internet we go.
Yeah, the internet knows all the things. Oh, and apparently our album has eclipsed the book in Google now. Thank you. It was kind of obscure. 1728. Yeah, so it was a long dead language by then. And what's the authentic way of pronouncing something that is from a time when the language wasn't a normal functioning language anymore? Would the person who wrote it even have pronounced it correctly in an historical sense? Would he have been heavily influenced by Church Latin, which is this whole other approach to pronunciation?
How many fucking Latins are there? Seriously. Like, it's like every day I hear like
I don't know.
New form of Latin. Like, what the fuck? Like, how many different ones are there?
Where are our linguist friends when we need them? Oscar! Johan! Show up. Tell us the answers. Yes, apparently everyone in the Netherlands is a linguist. In case you're wondering, if you meet a Dutch person, they're a linguist. It's a rule.
I believe it.
No. I think... How many Dutch people do I know? I think I know 4 Dutch people, and 2 of them are actually academically speaking linguists, and the other ones probably are, and I just don't know about it as far as I'm concerned. Johan van Hattum, which I'm probably mispronouncing because I've never learned to pronounce Dutch, from Thursday de Hoorde, see that same comment again, which is a great band. Speaking of,
What's
the
it
last
again?
album, this Terzij de Horde, TerzijDehorde.
Shit.
Gosh, what's going on? I don't know. Did they put out an album this year? No, that was last year. Okay, I'm not missing something. Yeah. They put out Self last year, which is great. It's, I think, a successful artistic endeavor in that I don't know how to describe it effectively. Great. It's still black metal, but you can tell that they are talented musicians with actual artistic effort going into it. I know there's at least a little bit of screamo, old school screamo. Let's not get into Atreyu influence involved in it, but they're actually named after a line from a poem by Hendrik Marsman. I don't know how to pronounce Dutch. A really apparently forgotten, probably because he wrote in Dutch, which no one speaks except Dutch people, and Afrikaners, which is, they technically speak a different language, but we won't go there. But a sort of a romantic poet. Is it romantic expression? Whatever. A really emotional, dark poet. They're named after a line from one of his poems, and they, I think it was last year, put out a single. Yeah, it was last year. Wacht Lex Barbarorum.
Is that Dutch again?
A Dutch and Latin. We've got a
Of
double
course.
whammy. So they put out a musical setting of one of his poems, along with a book of Johann's translations of his poetry, because Johann's a fucking linguist, because he's Dutch. Incidentally, with art by Steve Wilson, who did the art for the last releases. He was also brilliant and talented, and not necessarily getting as much attention as he deserves. Hint, guys, go buy things. Get him to do your art.
Exactly.
Because he's amazing. But yeah, it's a black metal band that put out a book of English translations of Dutch poetry from the early 20th century. Exactly what you expect, right?
Exactly.
Okay, he is officially an expressionist, more or less, for those who care about schools of poetry. We are all such nerds.
So how are we doing good on time? I know we've been doing it for like a little over an hour.
The sleep is for the week.
Of course.
I don't know what time work starts tomorrow. I have no idea. Too soon. But hey.
Might as well wake up at 2 in the morning just to be sure.
My roommate, who also works there, isn't even home yet, so I must be fine, right? Right.
Yeah, we'll go on for like another 20, 30 minutes if that's all right with you.
Right. Yeah, I'll continue blathering about how Dutch people are all linguists. How did we even get there? Oh, we were talking about pronunciation of Latin, which we can't. We can't pronunciate Latin.
No.
Definitely a word, by the way, pronunciate.
We need to get Maurice here.
Yeah. He's Dutch. He must be a linguist.
He's probably busy working on like 6 more albums to release this year.
At the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
I would assume so. He just posted that liturgically themed dark ambient project, Canticle. I don't know if he just made that. Released an album called Light of Christ, The Sword of Christ by Canticle. Yep, he did that this year. What else has he done this year? He did the Sirom, which is just his name backwards. Sort of not exactly shoegazy, sort of shoegazy project that put out an album this year.
Not exactly a shoegaze, so you mean it is kinda? I wouldn't expect that from
Kind of.
Maurice, of all people.
It's noisy.
Noisy shoegaze.
Yeah, there's the connection there. What's this? Oh, this looks like another Tongues EP that I didn't know existed.
That's common for me. Like I'm a big fan of him, but yet every day I'm like, oh, release this, release that. 'Cause it's just like a clusterfuck of releases every year with this guy.
Okay, that's Another Tongues and Actuary split. Oh, and the Caput Mortem is like primarily electronic, not exactly dance oriented, but sort of album. Sirom EP. Okay, that was December last year. So only 5 new releases that are on his Bandcamp so far, and I think he did whatever his project with Matt Finney is called. I'm drawing a blank. I think they did a new album this year too. It Only Gets Worse? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yes.
I did.
Yes.
Me being the fucking loser no life I am, I actually did a top 10 list, just all of his projects, so I kind of know all of it.
Maurice, we can't keep up. Why are you awesome? Stop it. Please don't stop. Don't stop. No, we won't go there. Anyway, I think he's working on some new adulating, and of course,
yeah.
The recent Another Tongues EP I didn't know about does not feature the song that he just posted recently, so that's on a Still Yet a Future album, which is at least clearly partway there because that song's done. I don't know how Maury's may differ, but for Evangelist, if one of the songs is done, the whole album is done, basically.
Yeah, I just want to keep it to
do it
3
in
minutes.
parallel. We do all the songs together, you know?
Yeah. So are any of them like a concept type of albums?
Evangelist?
Yeah.
All of them except the first one have sort of concepts to them. Omenex Simulacra is built around the Evangelist sort of world setting with the Abysscape and so forth, which we have referenced a number of times, and is about sort of the experience of experiencing the experience of this sort of plane of existence and various aspects thereof, and the process of dealing with that as something that is at least more or less a human being. Yeah, so that's the
very different,
overwhelming chaos plane album. Writhe in the Murk is actually, let's reference literature. Hesse's Steppenwolf, which honestly is a book I don't like very much, but sorry. But the core concepts of it in terms of going through all the experiences of humanity, regardless of morality, and trying to be some proper thing is worthwhile for the creation of the human experience. That's the larger scale theme for Rides in the Murk. Though this one's actually a bit more split away from the theme than Omen X was. Hearken to the Flesh, Rise in the Murk are playing on the connection of the self to the fleshly body and its experiences, rather than the sort of ethereal abyss hellscape images of the previous album. And Enthralled to the Void of Bliss is focusing even more so, though it's been a unifying theme of Evangelist since the first album, is the... Let me turn this into something quick and comprehensible. The interfacing of the human experience and the concept of divinity. Ooh, that doesn't sound like a thesis title or anything. But through addressing whether divinity exists within humanity, whether the concept of the divine is something that should be revered or rejected, what the human experience can do in terms of experiencing what it is to be divine. Yeah, that's more than anything, that is the focus of Enthralled to the Void of Bliss. Of course, the lyrics aren't here because they're not public. Sorry, guys. I have them.
I mean, you wrote them.
Start releasing some of them. But the variant on Enthralled to the Void of Bliss is heavily working towards rejecting divinity outside of the self in favor of creating divinity within the self and reaching a higher level of divinity than the one commonly reverenced. There are elements of self-destructive ritualism referenced in there, but not in the flesh-embracing, well, less in the flesh-embracing way that was the central theme of Rise in the Murk. It almost sounds like I'm speaking English. Hopefully some of this is getting over the translation gap between different minds that happens with language. Always a problem. And the split, the Blue Das Nord split, is the next step. Is the speaker on Threshold of the Miraculous has recognized the divinity of self and abandons the commonly referenced level of divinity in favor of becoming the commonly referenced layer of divinity and creating reality and embracing the self as the creator of reality, through, obviously, in a less metaphorical way. Subjectivity means that each of us, assuming any of you exist, and this is not all my imagination, create our own forms of reality. And Threshold of the Miraculous, which is the Blue Das Nord split side, is accessing the personal creation of surroundings. Yep.
Huh. Interesting.
And this is why I write lyrics and not essays. because these things are very hard to put into words without extensive use of metaphor. Yep. But yeah, there have been concepts. Anyway, yes.
I was also going to ask, and I've always wondered this because it's always something that just stood out to me in the name, and you know where I'm going to go with this is like, is there any like meaning, symbolism behind like the A&E kind of connecting like that in the band name? I've always wondered that. So is it just
I don't know. You'd have to ask Ruben. That was Ruben's contribution. Where is he when you need him? I have merely accepted that seemed like how it ought to be. Some of Ruben's metaphysical, religious additions to Evangelist, which I have not always understood fully, have been heavily centered on glyphs, writing. What's the word I'm looking for? I've forgotten all the words that exist. But he has, which at some point, hopefully, will be a thing that is more widespread than the insides of our brains. This, which some of you have seen before, maybe now and again, and the symbols around here, those things that look like they are strange curves, I have seen and poured over, all have symbols. They all mean something. They all mean something and reference something, and that is Ruben's side of the things. That's one of the things with non-internal creation, is that unless you are watering yourself down into something that can be communicated easily between persons and away from what you might call the occult and very personal aspects of things, everything will continue to have layers of meaning that cannot be transmitted between people. Nothing to be done about it. And evangelist, obviously, an evangelist is someone who attempts to do that. Hierophant is another relevant word. Is obviously what we're doing to attempt to get these across, but there's no way to not recognize that as utility in reality. Something will get through. It'll turn into a different thing in the minds of each little creator. Joy.
So, another question I kind of forgot to ask is, I don't know, it's what really like. I don't think it's gonna be one band, but like, what band like bands really influence, you know, the evangelist sound and atmosphere and everything?
Well, I've got a whole collection of vocalists and saxophonists who I'm trying to draw from. There's some of the more just straight up old school death metal vocalists like Craig Pillard, and yes, everyone hates Craig Pillard now. Shut up. Craig Pillard and Frank Mullen from Incantation and Suffocation, as well as like some of the Funeral Doom, very low death metal vocals have been an influence, and Devourment and the other slam bands. Actually, I can't explain why this works on a mechanical level, but learning to emulate Devourment is the only reason I can do the other vocals that sound nothing like Devourment right. Human bodies, what can I say? I can't name all of this is certainly all of the core influences for Ruben. Plutus Nord has been an influence on both sides,
Oh, yeah.
which makes doing a split very interesting.
Exactly.
More far out things get filtered through enough of just being part of our minds that you can't really name drop specific instances. Both of us have spent a lot of time listening to hip hop, and that comes through. Let's see. I know Ruben's a big Vasalith fan, and Vasalith incantation. So I think we're just getting down to incantation here. It's Vasaeleth. Yes. They're from the southern United States. I've enjoyed what Ruben showed to me, but I've never really, what's the word, followed up on them in depth. So I don't know a whole lot about them other than being able to recognize some of the similar influences. There are a lot of the vocalists. I've always enjoyed when people pushed themselves to the point where the extremes of the human experience were evident in what they're doing. Like Rainer Landferman strikes again. Whenever I hear someone doing something really original, he hasn't always been doing the things that have really influenced me, but occasionally some of the vocals from Adam Kalmbach from Jute Dite have really been something that I embraced. Who's it? Oh, there's some of the old school screamo bands. Well, they aren't older ones, but they fit into that. Okay, a newer one, which was originally called Elesh Norn and is now Fleshborn. The vocalist from that band is insane. They did a split with Karanir, as it happens. So they might actually. And I know I can do the vocals that I can do, not the vocals that other people can do, but that ends. Honestly, I've watched videos from the modern classical where people were doing speeches about extended techniques on vocals while working on albums, because obviously they're coming from a completely different source. There's also, you can look up Phil Menton is a heavy improv extended vocal person, and he's done a lot of touring and album stuff with Audrey Chen, and the two of them are just sitting there doing extended vocal, and it's very strange and very upsetting. A lot of that's been a heavy influence here and there. If you listen to Emanation, which is on Enthralled for the Void of Bliss, for example, that's got some of the extended vocal sounds that are not exactly normally part of the metal approach to things.
Yeah.
But still fit in certain ways. Some of the stuff that I do doesn't really, can't really come through in the evangelist context, because it's quiet and it disappears. And that's going to go more into the solo Saxon voice album I'm working on, because I definitely needed more projects to spend all of my time on. Yes, I did. I might die. But yeah. I know Ruben really tries to incorporate influences from the grooves, so to speak, and the sort of progression of intensity and withdrawal from a lot of pop and rock music that a lot of metal bands, it's easy to say, okay, I want to be intense and be intense all the time. And honestly, doing that too much removes the intensity of it. If you listen to The Last Days of Humanity, you will not hear maximum intensity all the time. You will hear maximum intensity that becomes nap time. Sorry, guys. And all of those bands do have their own techniques for getting around that. For example, all the little spoken word sound clips you'll hear break up the overdose. But I know Ruben's used a lot of the more pop-friendly elements because those people who are succeeding at it anyway are really good at that stuff. And it's something that everyone can enjoy. But that stuff, it does have immediate impact on people for a reason, because there is something that's being done right. And if you listen to even the most death metal parts of Evangelist stuff, you will hear hip-hop grooves developing into metal things.
I think that's really important to definitely change up the speed, the tempo, just to make the climax parts more stronger sounding. I feel like, like you said, just intensity riding throughout the whole track, it gets dull. And that's why I think I kind of like gravitate towards like experimental stuff. You're not going to hear the same thing, and not only in their discography, but through each album, you're going to get a lot of different shit hitting you in all different directions, and it creates a bigger impact, I feel like. And
yeah, even with something like Burning Tree, where they're trying to be maximum intensity all the time, the fact that they're doing it with a saxophone and drummer and just the two of them means that there's going to be wild variation. That's good stuff. Norwegian free jazz released on Utech Records from Milwaukee, because that's how modern world works. Anyway.
And last question, because already 30 minutes have passed. I gotta ask this because you've noticed I collect shit all the time. I post it on Facebook all the time. Out of the 3 formats of physical music, I know there's other ones too, like floppy disk and shit like that we're not going to include, but like the 3 main ones, what's your favorite from the tapes, the CDs, and the vinyl?
Definitely tapes and CDs.
For price? It's got to be for price, right?
Partially. I like looking at vinyl. And it depends on what it is, actually. Like, I really like listening to older jazz stuff on vinyl.
Yeah,
I think partially because the people who are originally experiencing it and the people who are making the albums were used to experiencing it that way, and it seems like part of it somehow. But for a lot of metal, I think the really hi-fi sound on a CD is actually beneficial, regardless of what people might say.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of electronic music, like One O Tricks Point Never, is meant on vinyl, and it's like it's meant for a CD, electronic shit.
Yeah, Perdition City, and the other electronic over stuff. It doesn't seem right to be putting it in an analog format. You need that extreme low bass and the extreme crystal clarity of the sound to make it feel right.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are other things that benefit from the extra murky sound that you can end up with on tapes when they...
Yeah, noise projects are like meant for tapes, I feel like. Sure,
noise,
I'll buy it on...
And filthy metal stuff where it's really
exactly.
raw. And even stuff that's sort of raw but really natural feeling. Trees and stuff really benefits from the warmth. And I know people like to say, oh, the analog warmth, blah, blah, blah. But it's really what it is. It's an EQ effect. So you lose some of the extreme high frequency stuff, but that you get with the tape. And for me, and forgive me, the only tapes that are within the distance of this cable are Evangelist tapes. The other ones are way over there. This little object is like a little box of magic to me. I don't know. It probably has something to do with the fact that I grew up with them as a kid, but it feels like when you're opening this box, you're opening a little secret amulet thing rather than, oh, this is a record.
I kind of see where you're coming from, because when Travis, right, of El Reyra, sent me that tape, that honestly, that felt like a fucking priceless item.
Yeah, it feels like there's a secret in that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a little secret somewhere in this little box.
Yeah, even I mean, even the two other tapes that I think are really valuable are the Rika the Unzen, Gas Fumes and Conflict split tape I got, limited to 66 copies. That, like, I listened to that more than my vinyl pretty much. And the other tape too, if you can kind of see it, is that red one right there. That I got the last one of it. That's the
nice.
That is the latest demo from KFR Death March, and it's smeared in Maxime Descartes' blood. And speaking of Maxime Descartes' blood, I mean, fucking, oh man, this fucking thing's blocking it. If you can kind of see at the head of the H.P. Lovecraft painting.
Oh yeah.
Like, at the rate it's going, I'm gonna own more of Maxime Descartes' blood on portraits than he has in his fucking body at this rate it's going.
Somebody's got to keep all of it. There's the Pale Horse Recordings scene from Texas, which, by the way, is obscure and has lots of really good stuff. Nivaith, Synthol, Prosselbrox. Yes, these are all syllables that almost sound like they might have letters in them. I'm sorry. I didn't name the bands. Not even the worst ones. I have trouble remembering some of them for some strange reason. Pale Horse Recordings. Remember that. That's English.
So is, what is this again, the Pale Horse Recordings?
Yeah, that's a label run by one of the people. And so it's...
Oh, wait, yeah, I know
most of the stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Iman Vokad and stuff. It's one of those things where the label is basically representative of a local incestuous scene for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of those bands, the early tapes, like especially Synthol,
mm-hmm.
were soaked in blood, and I've gotten to touch some of them. I don't own any of them myself, unfortunately. The early ones are super rare. That they've done some reissues lately, which are great. They're doing
reissues,
vinyl reissues of stuff.
Oh.
No. But old Synthol tapes, it's just the J card's completely like wrinkled from being soaked in blood from the main vocal guitar person. Just like, okay. And it really is in some ways a ritual object that's part of the output in itself, and it's not just a copy of the album, it is part of what the thing is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I something about tapes, just magic that way. I have my own obsessions, you know. That's how it goes. Obviously, I do still collect vinyl as well. Collect is probably not the wrong word, but I buy vinyl.
Yeah. For me, with vinyl, I think it works perfectly if it's like a holy grail item. To me, a holy grail item needs to, like what I consider a holy grail item, it needs to be a vinyl. Just because of its presence, how big it is, the artwork's all bigger, and just, I don't know, just something about the format just gives off that prestige presence that, though the tape I'm starting to really get more into, I have like a few tapes coming in the mail, the feeling I get with a vinyl is something that I just have never gotten with a CD or a tape as of yet.
Yeah. It's it's getting a piece of vinyl is like saying this matters to me.
Exactly.
And it's forming a permanent connection to. Yeah, they all have their own benefits. It's just for a lot of the stuff I do, I like tapes and CDs. Everything that I do comes out on vinyl, but I listen to the CD. Logically, actually, very little Evangelist stuff has come out on tape.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I figured you guys would have it all on tape since you seem to be so big into tapes and whatnot. I figured everything of Evangelist would be on tape.
Yeah, it's just the labels we've ended up working with, who are great, by the way. Hi Phil, hi Dave. Not that you're here, but are focused less on that like cottage industry aspect of the tape and more on creating this professional product, which falls more strongly into the discs.
Yeah, I mean, vinyl has really picked up as of lately, and not that I need to tell you that.
Yeah. And it is the thing that's recognized as the real release. Sol y Nieve is actually just a friend of ours put out these tapes, and I was like, yes, about time. Yeah, I'm doing another thing with him coming up that I'll be doing saxophone for. That'll be like a guest spot. And one of his other albums, 10,000 Miles of Arteries, even spilled seed crawls toward the womb. Are there enough words in that for you? I did some drumming for, which is like just 10,000 tons of Noah's hatred and anger pouring out, which is a beautiful thing. He is definitely an artist in his own right, as well as running a beautiful label out in Idaho. What you're gonna do? Anyway, yeah, he has always been more focused on that cottage industry black metal side of things, so he was able to do some tape releases for us. Yep.
Nice. I'll have to look into that more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say we'll cut it here, like 90 minutes. Right. So Val, thanks a ton for doing this. I know I was kind of annoying today, but thanks a bunch. It sounds like you have like a very chaotic life, and I'm really happy you gave up like 90 minutes of it to do this on my little shitty channel. So
I like to blather.
Hopefully we can do this again in the future. And yeah, for everyone who's watching, I'll have links to Evangelist, everything you can buy and purchase there. Please do so. Incredible fucking shit if you have not listened to it.
Keep me fed. Keep me fed.
Exactly. And yeah, thanks for watching, liking, supporting, and subscribing. You guys are the fucking best. Good listens.